Welcome to day 35 of the war on Israel, and here's all the updates from the ground, from the geopolitical stage, and everything you have to know in about 10 minutes. So first of all, a lot of updates, and I'm going to read them through one by one, not by any particular order of importance. Number one, now we have confirmation from the IDF that they have managed to eliminate the head of the Hamas anti-tank units. So the head of the anti-tank units of Hamas is now eliminated by the IDF, which is another one of a bunch of commanders that have been taken out throughout this war. Now, commanders get replaced. There's no two ways about it. But the minute you replace commanders with less experienced, less qualified ones, the quality of the combatants and the overarching kind of planning actually goes down. Also, Shifa Hospital and the city center of Gaza is probably the hardest perimeter right now that the IDF has to come through. This is the real battle right now that's starting inside these urban areas with the biggest concentration of forces by Hamas. IDF is about, I want to say, 700, 800 feet from Shifa Hospital. They're literally banging on the door. This is going to go down very, very soon. Now, there's about 200,000 civilians left in Northern Gaza. As you can see on this map right here, this map is divided into two areas. The one you don't see from this point on is the south of Gaza. The one you see from this line and above, this is North Gaza. And all these areas that are marked, these are areas in control of IDF in various degrees of control. Now, this region of North Gaza was originally the house of 1.1 million Gazans. Out of those 1.1 million Gazans, 900,000 have fled and evacuated southbound on the main highway and through the open corridor by the IDF. Many of them left over the past few days. It's a daily corridor for 4 hours, but nevertheless, there's still 200,000 civilians in North Gaza. It's just too much. It's too much for the IDF. They want to fight Hamas. They don't want to fight civilians. So there's a big dilemma what to do, especially when 60,000 of those 200,000 are all in this little tiny area right here. You see this thing where it says Shifa Hospital, Al-Shifa Hospital. This is the command center of Hamas. This is in the heart of Gaza City. And this little tiny area, we have 60,000 people in it. Why? Because Hamas holds them there as a live human shield. There's 60,000 civilians around Shifa Hospital, inside Shifa Hospital, held by Hamas there. They're not allowed to leave because they will be used by Hamas as human shields. This poses a great challenge. There's another 140,000 spread across North Gaza. All of them have to come out. At least the vast majority of them have to come out for the IDF to be able to wage proper urban warfare. Hamas knows it, and it tries to prevent people from leaving. Now, UNRWA just let us know that they basically still have water. They have food from the aid that's coming in through the Rafah crossing in Egypt. They have water from local supplies as well, and food from local bakeries. So the current allocation is 4 liters of water per Gazan civilian. But I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not, because it's 4 liters per day per civilian for all your needs, to brush your teeth, to wash yourself, to go to the toilet, whatever. 4 liters per day for all your needs is enough to survive, but it's not a lot. But we know that Gazans have water. UNRWA, whatever they're called, they have 4 liters per day per person. Now, the food trucks coming in every day from Rafah crossing from Egypt keeps coming, but they do not provide gasoline to Gaza Strip because gasoline is used by Hamas to ventilate its tunnels. It's a war element, and that is why the IDF is not providing it. From my conversation with John Spencer, who is an expert in urban warfare, I've asked him the specific question, and he basically told me, look, gasoline is a dual-use product, and if it is used for military purposes by Hamas, Israel is fully within its rights not to provide gasoline to Gaza, and that's within the boundary of legitimate warfare. So that's based on John Spencer. Shout out to John Spencer. Go follow him on X. The IDF is currently basically saying, look, we have killed thousands of Hamas terrorists. The numbers range between 2,000 and 10,000. The problem is that when you have this update from Gaza right now, the Gazan update, the Gaza Ministry of Health says, well, there's 10,000 dead right now, but there's no info from the Gaza health ministry that there's any sort of Hamas casualties at all. So if you read the Hamas, the Gaza Ministry of Health release, right, there's 10,000 dead in Gaza, And there's no mention of Hamas terrorists. So the question is it 10,000 and on top of it there's Hamas terrorists that are not being reported, or do they count the couple thousand of dead Hamas terrorists inside those 10,000? And there's also a question about the credibility of this 10,000 number, because it's basically reported by Hamas. But nevertheless, we know that civilians have been dying, and it's horrible. But I've made a whole video explaining why this is not necessarily a war crime. I'm going to talk about that towards the end of the video. Now, the U.S., on top of everything that's going on right now on the ground, with the battle still going on, the U.S. is slowly trying to restart the peace process based on the Oslo Accords from the 90s, essentially pushing towards a two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinian Authority will coexist, and eventually this will lead to a Palestinian country or Palestinian state. This is kind of a rehashed, regurgitated idea that's been tried before, and it led us to where we are right now. The Israelis certainly cannot accept that. This would not go down on the Israeli street. Any Israeli politician that will try to do that will get penalized severely, because this would almost render this whole war basically pointless. Because if the Israelis are going to have to import the Palestinian Authority from Judea and Samaria and the West Bank into the Gaza Strip, it's basically, this whole thing was for what? Just to bring back the Palestinian Authority, which failed there already, and it's pretty much preaching for the same thing as Hamas. And I'll talk about it just briefly. Hamas is a religious-based, Islamist, jihadist, Salafist, very extremist organization from a religious perspective, and they want to kill Jews. Palestinian Authority is a secular organization. It's based on the PLO, and they want to kill Jews from a secular perspective. So the difference for the Israelis is pretty much minimal. Same thing with the different wrapper. There's still 240 hostages from the Israeli side. Many of them kids are still held by Hamas. They're not being released. No access for Red Cross. Haven't seen any sort of information on that. That's absolutely horrific. Qatar have been basically dangling a deal for the release of 15 hostages out of the 240 for 3 days of ceasefire in order for Hamas to regroup. So far, this deal just seems like it's not going to happen, but let's see. There's a lot of chatter that this is going to be bad for the IDF to take this deal. Now, as far as the movement of the IDF so far, basically the number of casualties from the IDF since they've started the ground operation is 37. So 37 killed in action. But the main achievement that they've gotten today is the conquer of this little place right here. As you can see on the map, this thing right now is starting to light up in this color of IDF being held, right? So Jabalya is a major neighborhood on the outskirts of the center of Gaza, right about here. And it will actually connect the IDF from the beach and will allow the IDF to encircle Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun to try to basically carve out another part of Gaza. But also it will be kind of a launch pad for the IDF to move in on Shifa Hospital. So Jabalya, that neighborhood has fallen. It's in IDF hands. It's a big win. This was a key strategic point, capture of multiple outposts of headquarters, of lots of weaponry, lots of intel. Big win for the IDF in Jabalya. That was super important. Now, we'll probably, depends on the rate of the evacuation of civilians from Shifa Hospital, probably hours away from for a full-blown kind of firefight in Shifa Hospital between the IDF and the Hamas terrorists. But at this point, it's unknown. It depends on how fast the IDF is going to facilitate the movement of civilians from that hospital, given the fact that Hamas is literally blocking them from moving and threatening their lives. Now, I want to explain what happens from this point next. So, from this point on, the progress is going to be very small, because the deeper the IDF goes into this area, as you can see right here, it becomes way more urbanized and way more complicated. And not only they have to secure the regions they already hold, which is these whole places, they have to scour the fields for mines, for IEDs, from, one of them gopher holes that these guys can cop up from. So while they also have to clear backwards everything and make sure it's clean, they also have to have very slow movement. And I'll explain why this is intentional. So the IDF is going to be moving very slow from this point on, and this is 100% intentional, and I'll explain. So the modern warfare of Israel is based on these 4 elements which they're using right now. basically set up a rolling fire screen, smoke screen, basically constant barrage of fire in front of your infantry nonstop in order to provide cover fire and basically hold down any resistance. Behind that fire screen moves an infantry force and an armor force combined. And on top of them, there's an Air Force support to provide air support for these forces. The idea here with this campaign, which was kind of the first stage of it, was the softening bombing campaign. So they bombed it, they softened it, and now they're doing a rolling fire screen with armor and infantry moving through slowly. Because number one, they have to look for the tunnels. They have to be careful not to get flanked. They have to cover their rear. And mostly they're basically trying to lure these Hamas terrorists to come out of their holes, out of their tunnels to engage. And so they can actually get eliminated. The reason they're implementing this method is twofold. They can, of course, just bomb. They can bomb Shifa Hospital. It's within perfectly the rights of the IDF because it's being used for military purposes. They can bomb all these neighborhoods. They can just bomb the tunnels with bunker-penetrating bombs, but they're not going to do it. The reason is because two things. So they're not using air raids anymore, and they're going on the ground slowly. Is for two reasons. Number one, it's going to reduce civilian casualties, which the IDF has stated. It's their stated goal to reduce casualties. So air raids are going to get a lot of these 200,000 people who are still stuck in North Gaza, basically either hurt or dead. So it's not a good option for them. Even though they are within the right to do it based on international law, but they seem to be reluctant on getting more casualties from the civilian side. The other thing is that if you move slowly like that, with air support, with air cover, with armor combined with infantry and a rolling forward fire screen, you basically reduce your own casualties. Yes, you're not moving as fast, but there's less IDF soldiers killed in action, less civilians killed in action. So this prolongs the amount of international allowance of Israel to continue the war, because Israel is also kind of concerned about, okay, when is the world going to stop us? Because it happened before, and they're not going to let us finish off Hamas. And so by allowing, humanitarian aid, humanitarian corridors, and moving slowly without air raids, I think they're trying to prolong the window they have to operate. Now, the way this works is basically, and we showed video footage of this in the previous video, if you want to go and check it out. The way this works is basically you have a tank or some sort of an armor. All these tanks that go inside the Gaza Strip right now, they have a special system that basically shoots down RPGs and various landmines and IEDs. So they can take a bunch of RPGs. The Merkava Mark IV, Mark III, no problem. So these tanks move forward with infantry as they identify potential resistance and movement. For example, the other day we saw the video. They identified a bunch of Hamas terrorists on the rooftop. Instead of engaging and start to firefight with these guys, they report backwards. They don't rush it. They pull back, and they call air support. Choppers. You have Apache choppers or jet fighters. Depends on how big the threat is. They'll come in and they'll bomb the hell of these terrorists. The speed at which they can get it is minutes, and the precision is absolutely insane. Within a couple hundred yards. 200 yards, 300 yards, you can call in air support. They'll clean it up very, very efficiently, and there's no friendly fire. It's pretty impressive, the level of coordination between armor, infantry, and Air Force from this campaign. Once they're done and they eliminate the threat, the fighting force moves forward, and then the engineering force comes in. All the big bulldozers, the D9s, they come in and they basically clear the ground, they clear the rubble, and they basically check for any mines, IEDs, and everything. They clear it out, and they basically secure it for the forces that are more in the rear to come in forward. But look, it's going to be slow. There's a lot of criticism about that. But look, the U.S. Needed 3 years to clean out Iraq from Daesh, from the Islamic State. 3 years. So this has been going on for a month, and the speed of advancement of the IDF has been stellar and impressive. I think that once the IDF captures this point right here, which is Al-Shifa Hospital, this is going to be the beginning of the end of Hamas. I think it's imminent. I think it's inevitable. And I think it will be very, very shortly. But the campaign is still long ways ahead. There's still a bumpy road. There's going to be bad days. But this is kind of the update I have for you right now. A quick side comment for the people in the comment section saying, "Oh, Tom, you're biased. You've picked sides." I've picked a side. That side is the truth, the objective facts, and not supporting terror. That's what I picked. I'll report everything. I'll call it like I see it, good or bad. If you don't like it, I'm not for everyone. No problem. I don't make a living off these videos. This isn't my day job. I do this just to educate you and just to speak my mind. So your views and the $1 of ad revenue from every 1,000 of views on these videos is a cup of coffee for me at the very best, and I'm donating it anyways. So go right ahead, keep on tracking, don't watch, no problem. These videos are for people who actually want the objective truth and not propaganda. Simple as that. I'll see you in the next video.